You named your restaurant.
We named our restaurant.
Oh, cool. Luigi's, what is it? Ernie's.
Yeah, Ernie's. Actually, we cheated a little bit and we used the real restaurant we know
Okay.
as
That's
an example.
okay.
So we chose our restaurant. It's called Ernie's. It happens to be in Brenham.
Happens, just happens.
Just happened to be. Ernie's is an upscale bistro. Brenham is kind of a tourist town, but there's a lot of locals that you have to depend on for your regular trade. They have great food. They have a good menu selection, but the tables are empty.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So our entree to talk to them would be, you know, we've observed that even
No
though...
pun intended, right?
Was that?
Your
Entree, no pun intended.
Pun intended.
Love it. Okay.
We have observed that even though your restaurant is awesome, because it really is, it's seldom full. We've got some fresh ideas to put some butts in the seats. Can we sit down and talk?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Number one, what is that?
Was that-
Okay, what is the insight, like if you, what's the insight that you would share? Like that's a good opening, you may not even need any because you have some personal experience with them, so you have some credibility. But let's say you didn't. Let's say you didn't know if they had people come in or not. What would you use for insight?
We have some best practices, solutions that we can sit down and talk to you about on how to improve the operation of your restaurant. But before we could get to that, we've got to know what the issues are, which is
Okay.
really the questions.
From today, you would say one of the largest challenges for most small businesses, restaurants included, is finding new customers. And is that something that you're struggling with as well? Okay, so that could be the insight part of it. And then that's a great opening about the, you know, you've got a great place here, but there's not enough people. Okay, so when you have firsthand knowledge, there's nothing better than that. Okay, keep going.
Okay. The marketing challenges that we see for them is that they get very little business from local residents. And in a tourist community, the tourists are there only on the weekend.
Oh, so you get no lifetime value.
So yeah, there's little return from the local
Okay.
residents. They have a major identity crisis. They don't really know who they are anymore. They've gone through a couple of management changes.
Tacos and crepes.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they're upscale one day and cafe the next.
Okay.
So they have kind of an identity crisis, even though the name hasn't changed.
Okay.
They have very inconsistent operating policies. If you want to go to eat at Ernie's, you go, what day is it? It's Saturday. What are their hours on Saturday? Well, that was their old hours. What's their new hours? It's one of those. They have no marketing presence. They have a website. It's kind of a nice website, but it's static. They do very little marketing, very little presence in the community.
Okay.
They got money problems. There's not enough, you know, there's not enough people in the
That's gonna
seats.
Yeah.
So, you
With
know,
empty tables, that's gonna happen.
it's like, gee, are we going to be able to open tonight? And their website is outdated. You know, they have a nice presence, but it hasn't changed. So, the questions we want to ask them are, one of the questions would be, in a typical restaurant, how many turns are you getting a night?
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting any because they never fill, you know, one full seating, okay?
Okay.
So that's easy. But one of the questions would be, are you satisfied with the amount of business you're doing? Obviously, the answer is going to be no, but we need to ask the question anyway. What are they trying to reach? We want to hear from them what they perceive their own problems to be. Discuss what marketing activities have you tried and how have they worked? What have you done? What's been the return on that? So at least we know where they're coming from. One of the biggest questions to ask them is, what do they really want to be? It's hard to put together a campaign and the materials and the different media to support that if we don't know who they want to be?
Correct.
And then the big thing is, how much can they commit in terms of financial?
What's the budget?
What's,
Okay.
you know, and not in hard dollars and cents, but do they have adequate funding to support a way to reinvent earnings?
Okay, I love this for a lot of reasons. Okay, this is your pain question, number one. Are you satisfied with the current sales? Okay, that gets them to say, no, it sucks. Okay, these are all great needs analysis questions, excellent. Okay, so notice the divide here. I gotta get them to say, yeah, we're not happy with that. And then I gotta ask the detail to figure out how to help them. What I really like about what he's doing is notice that he's using expertise that he has about dining in a restaurant, about having restaurant clients, about, the operational issues. Like if I don't know what the hours are, like he doesn't have to be a restaurant genius or be a focus in vertical markets and restaurants, but he's saying, hey, if I don't know what the hours are, how does somebody new know what the hours are? Remember last time we talked about, you guys already know a lot about business. You know that if you open at 10 o'clock some days and 8 o'clock the other days, somebody's going to get confused. And that he's applying what he knows about that to how he could maybe help them. So he's going to be positioned as maybe not a restaurant expert, but a business expert. Does that make sense? Okay, now does everybody start to get the questions that get you the pain versus the detail questions that help you figure out what you're going to do? Does that make sense? Okay, credit unions. Did you write anything down? Or you
We
were
had
credit
students,
schools?
dean of students. No,
Did
we
we-
didn't write anything, we just talked.
We did credit unions already,
Credit
right?
unions, yeah.
Okay, so schools. Okay, so you guys help them out. They struggle a little bit on this.
Hello?
Okay, so it's a private school. Okay, what insight do we want to share with them?
Our first question was the hardest to get into to the schools. The second one was the easiest. And the only thing is we came up with the first one was the student enrollment might have been down and trying to help them get more enrollment.
Okay, so just think about this. Did you have more money, those of you that have kids, to send your kid to private school before 2008 than you have now?
Yes.
Okay, are you the only person who has that problem? Okay, so what do you think now, she says this one has a waiting list, but they won't all. Okay, this one, she was thinking of one specifically, but they won't all. Okay, private colleges, private high schools, the parents said, I'm not paying the 20 grand, go to public schools. So some of them have taken a dip in enrollment. So the question would be, are you where you wanted to be in terms of enrollment? No, I'm not. Paying! Okay, the other thing is they've had to discount it more. Okay, because they may get the students, but they've had to supplement that because the parents are like, I can't afford it. Okay, or a student started and then the parents lost his job and they don't want to keep the kid out of school, so they're supplementing that tuition from their endowment. So the next question might be, are you getting, what is your current discount rate for your students? And are you bringing in enough income to grow the school the way that you want to and provide the educational experience that you want to, that will make you competitive? No, we're not, because our discount rate is skyrocketing. Okay, so that'll get you the pain. All right, so what do we think their challenges are?
Enrollments and money.
Okay, enrollments, money, could be competition if it's like a really exclusive one, like if you're really exclusive and you're going after top students, is there anybody else that you're competing with?
Yeah,
Could be. Okay, so what challenges or what questions are we did the pain questions, what needs analysis questions do you have? Like they said, what's your current attrition, well, the attrition rate is a pain question, but like, what's your value proposition? What's the lifetime value? What are your questions like that?
Yeah, remember our questions were how many kids went to college,
Okay.
where they go
Oh,
after
okay.
this. We're going along that line.
Okay, so you know how you guys all jumped down to like the big marketing? Well, they
Right.
did that too, which was fine. And they started saying, okay, what do people want to know today? If I'm going to pony up 20 grand for high school education, I don't necessarily want to know that you have 22,000 books in the library.
Right.
I want to know that those kids got into the college of their choice. Or if I'm a college, I want to know that those kids got jobs.
Or that they got scholarships, so much scholarship money was awarded to those students. instead of others.
Okay, exactly. Our kids earned $3.7 million in scholarships. Okay, so those are the kind of questions that you want because you're going to eventually try to fix this and what is that messaging? Okay, Colleges tend to used to tilt over to benefits. We have 27 libraries, 42 restaurants on campus, you know, the best dorms in the world, 2,000 acres of lush greenery. I mean, that's all features, okay? And parents don't care about features now. They care about results. Can you get a freaking job when you get out of this school? So you're noticing them switching their marketing to, you know, X percentage of jobs within 90 days. X percent went on to grad school. Like, here's the result of it, okay? So that's those kinds of things are what comes next after they admit that they're having a problem. And you try to find out, okay, what do we got to work with here? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so good job. Okay, good job. All right, now we're going to build a campaign.
They do that when you're watching the football game too. They'll like come on and say, oh, yeah, we graduated. Some of the people who don't, because you know the student athletes, only a small percentage of them will go on to be a professional athletes. So they'll talk about the others.
Oh yeah, which I actually like that.
Yeah.
Having two D1 college athletes in the
Yeah.
family. Okay. All right, so thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about actually putting the campaign together, okay? Oh, are you doing something? Okay. Okay, well, this is not working. Oh, okay. All right, multi-channel means same message out across all channels. Cross-channel means I'm building on each channel, okay? I know that you responded to my postcard and I told you this messaging, so now I can continue that conversation on the landing. Okay? So multi-channel examples, Sears is having a sale, all channels it says Sears is having a sale. Okay? That's still good. Okay? Because multiple channels I get better response, but it's not cross-channel. Okay? So we did this before, so our cross-channel anatomy looks like this. Okay? All right, so we talked about the value proposition, which is increase results, because the relevance and the multiplicity. Interactivity, so I can learn from the customer's interaction, more about them. I have the tracking, so I can figure out what's working and not, and that gives me the foundation for continuous improvement. Okay? So here's all the things that go into a successful campaign. And you guys are doing all this in that last exercise. What's the objective? If the guy comes to you and he's at 30% capacity in his skyboxes and he thinks he'd like to get young kids involved in baseball, is that the right objective?
No.
No. You need to drive revenue out of those skyboxes. So sometimes they have the wrong objective. I need new customers and they've got all this opportunity to cross-sell within their existing customers, which would be easy. And they're not focused on that. Okay, so help make sure the objective is correct. Who are my audiences? So you just did that. Who am I going to target? What's my timing? Okay? So the college or the high school thing, it matters. Like I can't sell kids to come to a school in September in October. It has to happen before. Okay? What's the message? What is that value proposition? What do I say to those parents today? What do I say to those banking customers who just switched their checking account that I need to sell something else to? How do I convince corporations that they should have a skybox? And how do I get old Ernie to figure out that he needs to have consistent hours and a marketing a campaign to get people into the place? Interactivity or channels then, what makes sense from a channel perspective? If I don't have your email, can't use it. Okay? If I'm appealing, if I'm selling in-home nursing care, probably don't want to do that with text messaging. Okay? So what are the right channels for the audience? I'm trying to get people to the basketball game, texting might be good. Okay? Interactivity, customer experience. What do I want the customer to do and feel when they do this? Okay, what's that experience going to look like? Remember the basketball thing? It was fun and it was energetic. That was the feel that they wanted. Hey, this would be a good time. I want to go to this game. Does that make sense? So you got to think about that. So the question to ask yourself is, what do I want them to do? What do I want them to feel before they do? Okay, what is the offer going to be? How am I going to get them to do something? Okay, so go back to your school. Come take a tour. Sit in on a class. Join us for the parents' night to learn more. Like there's going to be some offer. Okay? Call to action, come now. Visit the landing page, buy it now. now, visit our restaurant, what is it, and it needs to be urgent. And if it's a specific kind of thing, it needs to have an expiration, or else they'll get distracted, okay? Measurement criteria, you did that on a couple extras. What am I going to measure? And what is it going to tell me? Okay. What's my follow-up process? We did that on the early morning exercise. How often do I want to look at results? Okay, so go back to my union guy. You know, like after the first email went out, he was freaking. Okay, or after his direct mail went out, he was freaking out. Nobody's responding. So wait till the email. Wait till the email. Because it's hard to respond from the direct mail. Because I got to remember, have the postcard in my hand, go to my PC, type it in. But the email came and all of a sudden the response jumped up. Okay, so what's the timing which I'm going to review what's happening and see if I want to make changes? Does that make sense? Okay, and then how am I going to calculate the return? Okay, so a skybox cost, I don't know what, a whole bunch. Let's say 60 grand. Okay, so do I need like, let's think about that. If I'm gonna make $60,000 on one sale, what do I need to know?
Who's got $60,000?
Okay, so who could afford that? Okay, what's the next thing I need to know?
But you really need to know when your budgeting cycle is.
Okay, well you're right, that's a good question. Okay, so when do people decide to spend money on that? That's a really good question. Okay, the next big one is how many people do you have to talk to get a close? Okay, so if every time we talk to 4 people, we sell one skybox, I know how many leads I have to get. Does that make sense? So what's how many kids, families do you have to talk to before one says yes?
8.
Okay, well, it does, you know, whatever it is, you need to know that. Because then I got to work on getting that ratio, because you're not going to close everything. Right?
How do you know that?
You ask them. Okay, you ask them. Now, they may not know. If it's a big enough opportunity, you could do that research beforehand. Like in banking, how many, you can find pretty much anything on the internet, but most of the time they know that. Okay? And then how am I going to calculate my ROI? Okay? So we talked about this stuff this morning. Single largest factor in improving response is relevance. The average response improvement when using multiple channels is 35% compared to single channel print-only campaigns. The average response improvement is 50% for personalized and multi-channel over static. Okay? In a nutshell, be relevant, stick with one objective, be as clear and concise as possible. So forevermore, think about that bad ad this morning for the Scottsdale remodeler. Okay? I don't know what I'm doing. There's too much stuff going on. I don't know what you want me to do. Nothing should look like that. Okay? Focus on benefits. The benefits on the skybox, what are they? What?
Privacy. Great feed.
Exposure, exposure.
Great way to entertain clients.
Prestige.
Great way to, position yourself as a, successful company in the marketplace, which adds credibility. What else? Could be employee appreciation. Great way to reward employees for jobs well done. You got to understand the benefit. It isn't like, isn't it great to have a box? It's got 12 cents. Okay, there's other stuff. Okay? So focus on the benefits. The exceptions were sort of techie things where I care about the pieces and parts a little bit more. Conspicuous and repetitive response mechanisms. You can't have, please call 1-800 in 8-point type. Okay, the response mechanisms have to stick out. And a lot of designers don't like that, so the pearls are like camouflaged and I don't know where they are and all that. No, they have to stick out. People need to know what they're supposed to do. Use intriguing headlines and test. Okay? Designing for the small screen. So we need to care about this with the mobile device proliferation. Okay? 43% of email is now opened on a mobile device. Okay? So don't build these emails that I can't see what's happening or there's too much going on. Okay? I was on the airplane the other day and somebody bought a drink behind me and they have those little, like cell phone swiper things for the credit cards. Twice this stewardess had to come back up to the steward, or the flight attendant that was working with me and say, I clicked the wrong button. Can you get, I'm locked in, can you fix it? Why? Because she's got 12-inch fingernails and she's trying to hit the accept button and it's like this big. Okay, bad design. Okay, that's gonna happen on your cell phones too. I need big, giant, thick buttons. Okay, just like the gecko. Okay, so cross-channel means mobile friendly, especially if you're going to have a lot of mobile response. Okay, so there's a good site. There's a good Sears. Okay, click to call. One button and it's pretty big. Okay, and I don't have a lot of other chaos going on. Okay, so good design on that. Concise design of content. Use single columns, not multiple columns if it's going to be on a cell phone. Okay. Single clear calls to action, even more so than email, because I don't have as much real estate. Okay? Avoid tiny fonts. You should avoid tiny fonts all the time, especially if your audience is over 50. Okay? And then also strong contrast colors, because a lot of times people turn down the light on their cell phones to conserve the battery.
Yeah.
So if it's too gray tony, I'm not going to be able to see the difference between things.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you saying that on the Sears website, that's it? I mean, is there any more content behind that page? I don't see a navigation button.
That's an email, not their website.
Yeah, that's an email.
Oh, so I thought we were looking at a mobile website. Huh?
Okay, or that could be a website like the email said, you know, maintenance, selling parts, and then when they click there, that's what they have. Okay, so that's going to be easy to respond to.
Okay.
Okay, but I mean, and you're not going to be doing stuff for Sears. The reason I put this up there was when you get something that somebody wants you to do, it should be that clear to navigate.
Right.
If it's not, then you're going to have trouble with the response because people are going to be like, I'm not looking at this, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
So
Okay.
what I'm trying to figure out though, because we have not done a mobile website.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be a multi-page thing like a normal website would be? Or are you, on a mobile website, are you trying to keep it to one screen?
Well, the mobile website should definitely be a landing page, not the website. Okay? Because you could have a bunch of stuff behind it, but on that mobile screen, if your options are, let's go back to the restaurant, hours, menu, make reservations. Like I might have 3 buttons there, but I want to see that like that. Like I don't want to see on your regular website where I've got like a big picture of a spaghetti dinner and a bunch of copy and then buttons over here that I'd have to scroll down to, you know. So the mobile version of that site is going to say Ernie's Restaurant, 3 buttons. Does that make sense?
And each button is going to take you to a secondary page?
A secondary page
Okay.
that's either look at the menu, make reservations, or look at the
Okay.
hours.
And that's all the content you're going to have on your mobile
Yeah, you
site?
want to limit the content as much as you can on a mobile
And then
situation.
how do you get them to go from there to your regular website?
But you don't, if this is a mobile application, I probably don't want them
You're
to
not
go
going to
to
do
my-
anything then? Okay.
Yeah, okay? So you think about how it's going to be used,
Okay.
okay?
But you can still get your website if you Google it off your phone.
Yeah, it's there, they can get there, but navigating a website is not particularly easy on a cell phone.
But they have apps that help you.
Yeah, sometimes people are all set up for that, which if they are, then you can let them go there.
But it's still, if you have a smartphone, you can enlarge it, still get the buttons. But she's right with what you're doing.
Yeah, even if you enlarge it, now the button's off to the side, it's not on the, you know, yes, now I can read the 8-point font, but the button's gone. You know, so stuff like that, like think about how it's going to be used. Okay? Limit the images because some people like the iPhones, the images come down, some they don't. Okay, so you don't want like, okay, it's like a big nothing because the image didn't download. And now I have a big white space with a little question mark in the middle. Okay, so test the emails and make sure that they like show up the right way, the way that you want them. Okay. Now, emails, if you're using email, the best practice is within 24 hours of the receipt of the direct mail, 48 hours and going down, you know, the closer the, 48 is your max of receipt of the direct mail. You can use trackmymail.com, stuff like that, to know exactly when it gets in homes. If not, okay, we dropped this on this day, it's probably gonna hit on that day, I'm gonna drop my email, you know, so that it gets there within 24 hours. Yeah, what?
Send it something else, right?
Yeah, you can see it yourself and then know when you send your emails. But your response, like from that multiplicity factor, starts to diminish after the 48th hour. Because basically I can't remember ever seeing anything in the first place. That's why, okay? But just so if you ever need any proof sources for retail, response rates was 60% higher than the previous campaigns that didn't use an HTML, they just used text emails. And the click-through to conversion rate on email was twice email only. So when I just sent email, I got one kind of click-through. When I sent direct mail and email, I got twice as much click-through because they'd seen it somewhere else. Okay? Average order size increased by 60% over just email and just direct mail. Getting both. Tracking. Click-through rates tracked it by only 42% of marketers. Most people don't even look at what it is, or you know, whatever that, 58%. Open rates are only tracked by 37% of the marketers. That's a little fuzzy now, because depending on what kind of device you have, it may look like it's open and not be opened, or it may, you actually did open it, but it doesn't look like it's open, because you read it in the preview or something. So those are statistics we used to care about. We care a little bit less about it today. ROI tracked by only 25% of marketers. Half of all marketers will spend more this year on business intelligence, so they know they need to understand this better. So there's some statistics on that. 78% say there's greater scrutiny within their own organizations on what works and what doesn't than there used to be. Okay, when we were all fat, dumb, and happy rolling in the dough in 2006, hey, if we were a little off on this, who cared? Okay, but now, like, you can't be a little off, like you really care. Okay? Struggling to understand the influence of their campaigns beyond basic metrics of acquisition and conversion. They want to understand, like I talked about with the union, which group is responding, you know, which things are they clicking on, what do they seem to be interested in. And just 9% review their online marketing performance in real time. Okay, so remember my customer, he's looking at his dashboard going, no, dominant, and freaking out. Well, he's within 9%. Most people don't look at that real time, which they really should. Why should they? Why should I look at it real time? I send out the image of the goofy boy for the young version, and I'm getting no response, but everybody else is responding. What can I do?
Well, you can recraft the message for that.
I can change that image out, okay? Pretty easily. It's online, okay? It's a digital thing. Or I could say, okay, I don't have time to find another image of a young guy. Let's just see if it was the image. Let's send the old guy. Okay, let's see if we send the old guy image if they start responding. Then I know I had an image issue. Does that make sense? I should show you guys that campaign. Okay, 35% of marketers said managing campaign execution across multiple channels is the top challenge. Okay, so your customers don't know how to do this multi-channel, cross-channel thing. You're expert, like you know more today than they know, just from being in this class. So use that to your advantage. Now, people who nurture leads produce 20% increase in sales opportunities versus people who don't. So there's your reason when you're talking to a B2B company that has a longer sales cycle, this is why you want to do cross-channel. So you can nurture those leads and your sales will go up 20%. Okay, compare. Companies that excel at lead nurturing generate 50% more sales-ready leads at 33% lower cost. So that's the page, dog ear it. You're talking to a B2B marketer with a longer sales cycle. Those are the stats you're going to use to get the meeting. Okay? So channels, we know all of them. There's zillions of them. Okay? Now here's this layout of, let me do this. All right, so basically you have channels. You're getting inbound leads. So you've got the stuff that you do. This is what HubSpot does. So the SEO, all that stuff, I could get inbound leads. Inbound leads also need to be qualified. Okay? Then I've got outbound stuff that I do. Direct marketing, email, stuff like that. Okay? So as those things come in, inbound leads might come in through another track, like I want help, call me now, that goes immediately into the respond pile. I could use with my other stuff, you go to the landing page and I learn something more about you to qualify, okay? Now if I have that covert interaction thing going, I'm getting smart, okay? So then, based on what they do, I probably have something that's become qualified, at least a portion of it. So that goes back up to sales. So sales is gonna like call them up and really ensure that they're qualified, which they are also doing perhaps on the inbound leads. Has anybody ever filled out a request for white paper and then got a sales call like 20 minutes later? Okay, that's because that notification on the download, they considered it to be qualified and it went right to sales. Okay, it could have done something else, but they deemed it to be qualified enough for sales. Okay?
I also got one and it's like 3 weeks later. I don't know.
Yeah, and we know that you have, like, you're never going to call him back. Okay. So once they're qualified in the B2B world, then they go into the sales process. You're qualified, I'm going to try to develop a solution that meets your needs, I'm going to ask all the needs analysis questions, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes people fall out. Sometimes people fall out though. So sometimes I convert them, but sometimes it turns out that they're not as qualified as I thought they were. Okay? And sometimes people go into that overt covert, but when we talk to them, they don't engage. Okay, so that's what the rest of your nurture tactics are. Remember that nurture track before? So hey, you did a little bit of clicking, I'm going to invite you to a webinar. Hey, you didn't really do much clicking at all, I'm going to keep sending you postcards and try to get you to go to the landing page and give us some information. So then your nurture tactics are really handling people that fall out of your sales process and also customers that converted, it becomes loyalty tactics. Does that make sense? Okay, so I've got a customer now, but why wouldn't I like share the white paper with them? They're gonna feel better about using me as a partner, right? So some of those tactics actually work on loyalty. Does that make sense? So one of the things you could do is look at what this customer, what your prospect is doing and say, what are these things for? Okay, you're sending out e-newsletters once a week, or once a month. Why? What's the goal? Oh, well, I'm trying to find prospects. Okay, well, you're sending them to existing customers and they sound like they're to prospects. Is that a good idea? Okay, so start to think about, like, what are you doing? Okay, so the guy who's selling corporate sales at the ballpark is sending out the same piece to both existing customers that have skyboxes to get them to renew and people who've never done it before. Is that the same message? No, but he didn't want to spend all that money on marketing to get 2 pieces. Okay, so he's got one that's not going to work. So I might as well not do any. Okay? So things like that, you want to say, like, what's the purpose of it? And can it be dual purpose? Because sometimes they can. White papers can. Case studies can be dual purpose. Other things, not so much. Okay? So think about that. Okay, so content mapping, we talked about that a little bit, but basically you want to, like, how do I identify what was good about what Barry did with Ernie's is he basically built a persona about Ernie's. Like, this is Ernie, this is the guy. That's a really good marketing tactic. Like, I'm going to have customers that are like this, I'm going to have customers that are like that, and when you think of them in terms of persona, you can understand what to talk to them about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, this is how we used to lay out campaigns. You know the book? Okay, then we got really smart and we did it with little, boxes and stuff. But today, you've got solutions like Mindfire Studio, XMPie Circle, I think Easy Cross one, where you can online sort of drag and drop. This is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. It's much easier. Okay, here's USA's list of most common problems. I think we've covered all these today. No call to action, bad grammar or typos, we had a couple of those. Boring headlines, cluttered design, not direct enough. Like, hey, I sort of maybe want some more information. One-hit wonder, so I only did it once, thought it didn't work and didn't keep going. How many times do we have to go before we can say throw in the towel on this? Four. Talking from the we position, we are the best, this and that, who cares? It needs to be, this is why this is what it's about for you. Losing them with links, and I've got an example of that. Too many links on the page where I link out, and now I'm gone. Okay? Timing, bad timing, not integrating the other media, bad copywriting, too much copy, missing or incorrect response mechanisms, like the phone call to the people that had an answering machine. Not good. Okay? And then no follow-up. Okay? So here's a good example of they took one choice away and they went from 3 to 2 choices, increased leads 13%. Because if there's 3 things, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to do, I have to think about this. Okay? So less things to think about, easier it is for me to get you to convert. Okay, so lots of choices, not necessarily good. Okay, here's a link issue. All these things are links.
Wow.
And notice my forms down there at the bottom, so I have multiple options to lose you. Okay, so you click any of those links and you're gone. You're not going to come back to the landing page and fill out the form. Okay, focus on benefits. This one, they changed it from smart tools, here's what we have, to create successful social media campaigns fast. That's a benefit. And the conversion goes up by 28%. Because what do I don't care that you have smart tools. I care that I can do my campaigns faster. That make sense? Okay, this one, bad timing is really obvious. Back to school emails that go out in October. Okay, this one just makes you look like an idiot. Okay, so timing is important. Okay, now sometimes you can't help it. You're doing a snow shovel promo and it's 80 degrees that day. Okay, ideally you would want to advise your customer, let's hold up on that. Okay, because snow shovels are not going to sell on an 80-degree day. Okay, key zones in letters. The first paragraph of the letter, the subheadings, the last paragraph, and the postscript. 80% of people read the postscript. So remember we talked about you have your key messages, that's the places you want them. On a postcard, or self-mail, it's headlines, subheads, bullets, picture captions, and starbursts. Remember that lawn care at a big Starbucks, free line treatment if you act today? Okay, we talked about this already. Okay, so here's Arby's. This is a texting thing. So they did table tents, tax to this number, free beef and cheddar to opt in. Ended up knowing who my customers are, and they get their free sandwich and hopefully come back and spend more. Okay? Then they did another one. This was up in Canada. They printed a million of these little cards. They were trying to sell combo meals. So a million little cards. They also put large format signage, for those of you thinking about that, in the restaurant windows, and said text this number or text Arby's to this number and enter to win Arby's for a year or something. So now I'm picking up all these other people, okay, and you opted in, and now I can say, hey, it's 11:35, hungry for big cheddar? Or whatever that is, and drive you, whatever they're saying now. Drive them to eat every day if I want, okay? So here's what they ended up, 22K contest entries to get the free Arby's for a year and 2.2 response rate. Okay, Kohl's. You guys have Kohl's, right? Yeah. Okay, so they wanted to get people to join their Facebook page, so they did this combo promo at the school level, which goes back to what you guys did at the school. Like you need to sell to the students too, because the students influence demand. So they're going to tell their parents, hey, I think I want to go to this school. Okay, so yes, you got to sell to the parents, but you also have to sell the kids, and guess what? 2 different messages. Okay, you tell the parents at a college, for instance, your kid's going to get a job within 90 days of graduating. You tell the kid we have 15 coffee bars in the biggest dorm rooms on the East Coast, because they care about different stuff. Okay, so same piece, maybe different messaging. All right, so Kohl's got push people to their Facebook page. ended up with another channel that they could replicate messaging in on the Facebook page. And they got them there by having a big contest that your school could win $20,000. So all the kids went home and told their parents to go to the Kohl's website. And now they went from, what is it? From 1 million Facebook people to 2.8 million Facebook people as a result of this thing. So now I'm on Facebook, I can just put my promos up there. It's people who like me already. Hey, just for our loyal customers, you can come in from 8 to 9, early bird special, and get 10% off. They feel special. They're getting treated differently. Okay, so now I put this one in, don't get scared. A Lego, right? So you're now like, oh, I don't like that, right? There's a method to my madness, okay? All right, so they did this campaign called Company Genius, okay? So it's a multi-channel campaign and to integrate the sales process to get Allegro franchise owners to generate awareness and leads for multi-channel solutions. Does that sound like anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I put it in here. This is on the PODI site, okay? So if you want to read up on it, okay? So they use direct mail, email, social media, sales follow-up, integrated sales process, and they trained the people, kind of like we're doing today, on what to do with it, okay? This is what it looked like. Okay, so perk up your marketing response rates and earn a new title. You could be the company genius. Okay, so free company genius mug. There's what the mug looks like. Probably a little bit too much copy on that email, but not the worst thing goes. Okay, here's the landing pages. Okay, and this one was progressive. It wasn't all loaded on one page, which means that I am going to know something from the fact that you're moving from page to page. So I do pick up something from the marketing standpoint, but I also run the risk of losing you somewhere in there, okay? Okay, they also had a sales process that was documented and trained on. Here's what they got. Response varied by franchise, with the most critical factor being the sales process being used, okay? Response average 5.8. But we had some as high as 15.4, which would be, ridiculously good, and some at 0. Okay? They scheduled over 117 appointments as a result, and they're clearly heavily loaded on the high response people. Okay? And more than $75,000 in new sales could be directly connected to people who had responded to this campaign. Okay? So look what they're tracking. Look at the pieces of that, okay? That's a best practice. You can take it and run with it, okay? Chick-fil-A, this is for your customers in a consumer marketplace. They wanted to establish a database and drive in-store traffic. Chick-fil-A postcard, free Chick-fil-A sandwich. Okay, it was personalized. Then they went to the landing page to enter to win. They got the sandwich, but then the secondary offer, enter to win Chick-fil-A for a year. Go there, and then once they filled that out and submitted it, they could share it on social media. So remember we talked about a good offer is shareable. Okay, so they shared it. Okay, this is the offer activation page. Enjoy free best. I love those cats. I just love them.
Drag tag.
What?
Drag tag.
Okay. So this was for everybody else could now go and get this offer too when they saw it on Facebook. Okay. So here's what they got. 1,200 of the respondents posted on Facebook, which brought in 6,400 other people. Where are you going to get that? Okay. 115 respondents tweeted the offer, which brought in 1,100 more people, 1,200 more people. Users could also share over SMS, but it was a little bit more difficult to track, okay? They had a 279% response rate because they sent out 5,000 pieces and they heard from something like, 8,000, okay? There's how it broke down, 7.9 visits from the personalized landing page, 22 from the mailing, okay, so pretty good mix. 65.3 of the visits came from social sharing. Okay, and I picked up all those people that are now linked to me on Facebook and I can market to. Hey, consider breakfast tomorrow at Chick-fil-A. 26.8 visits came from the cards with the curls on them, not the personalized versions. Okay? All right, and they did this with a company called Ducky, which is a pay-as-you-go. Like, you don't have to buy the software. You just call them up and say, hey, I want to do a campaign that you can track the social media on. And they'll give you a price to do it, like, per record. So you could use that today. And they're really good and they'll really help you. So if you have a consumer client, this would be good. All right, so the best practices are clear, concise copy, uncomplicated offer, free Chick-fil-A for a year. Pretty simple. Okay? Multiple placements of response mechanisms, overt and covert tracking, simple forms. Okay, and remember to pre-populate them if you know them. Make sure if it's a B2B that the sales process is aligned, even if it's a B2C. So if I have to bring a coupon in, and my people don't know anything about it, and you're like, oh, I have a coupon for a free sandwich, and they're like, I've never seen that before, bad. Okay, so you have to do that in the consumer world as well. Review results frequently, and be brave. Try some stuff, modify it, don't be afraid to change things. Okay? Don't be afraid to change things, that's the whole purpose. Okay? And then we talked about if you don't have something to say, if you don't have something to say, don't. So if you don't have anything to do on that thank you page or a thank you email, do a thank you page because that starts the nurturing, but don't just send an email that says the exact same thing. Like everything should have a purpose. Does that make sense? Okay, organizations must hold the sales teams accountable for actually acting on stuff. So that becomes a question for you. If I'm in a B2B world, and we're going to generate leads, how are you going to know that your sales team is doing what you want them to do? Because I don't want to get to the end of this and you go, hey, no, we didn't heard anything. And then you find out that no one ever called anybody. Okay, so you need to ask that question. Okay? All right, nurture tools. You can do, this company wanted to clean up their database. Okay? So they did a pretty good offer. Free offers get response. Not necessarily qualified, but response, okay? But my goal is I want to clean up my database and get more information, cleanse and gather, then something free is good, okay? So they did emails, personalized URLs, look like this, okay? Postcards, that's what it looked like, and then they went to a landing page to get the forever stamps. They got a book of forever stamps. It ended up being timely because the post office had just raised the rate on stamps, or was about to. So this is what it looked like. Then, this is really cool. Then they sent out a response, another postcard that says, hey, this is what happened. Okay? So to the people who actually participated, theirs was one version. To the people who didn't do anything when they got the first direct mail, theirs was another version. And they got to say, hey, look, we got a 4.45% response rate, and that's X% better than other stuff. So they actually made 2 campaigns out of 1.
Is that the S-rays?
Yeah, it is. Okay? So that's what they look like. What? Okay. Yeah, we take, all right? So the goal there is, I got to educate these people about what is possible, but I also want to generate some leads. They combine the two. Okay? And you sort of saw that with Allegro. So think about, can I teach you something at the same time I'm trying to get you to show that you're interested? Does that make sense? If you remember back to the Allegro one, on the side panel, on the left-hand side, they were saying what the page was doing. This page, we're going to give you additional relevant content because we know you responded to the postcard. Next page. On this page, we can begin to interact with you and learn a little bit more about, a potential lead. Next page. By coming all the way through to this, you're demonstrating that you have an interest in this marketing approach. So they basically taught them at the same time, hey, this is what it could be doing for your business. Okay? All right, Wallingford Credit Union. This one did not have, okay, you have an assignment at the end of this. Okay, so here's what it looked like. Business objective is increase the number of car and home equity loans online banking. Okay, banks make most of the money on loans. Okay, not checking accounts or savings accounts. So this is what the postcard looked like. Again, not rocket science. It did not have any interaction. like basically just call for more information. There was no landing page or anything, okay? This is what it looked like. Again, not rocket science. I'm a creative. This their son online making. Okay. Switched from statement stuffers to this. They had been putting messages in statements. They had a clear value proposition. We have better interest rates, a clear call to action, achieved the best month of loan activity in the history of that credit union with that silly first postcard. Exceeded the forecast loan volume for the year by mid-July. Slightly over half the year, and they had reached their entire year's goal. Okay? 17% of members signed up for online banking within 6 weeks of the mailing. And that's good.
Even
Now
with
you're
that-
stuck.
Even with boring.
What?
Even with boring.
Even with the freaking boring, because it was relevant.
Right.
Okay? So now here's your thing. The Wallingford campaign just used one channel. Okay? So tell me what you're going to do to make that better.
Add more channel.
What?
More channel.
Okay, so if I push them to a landing page, what do I want to do? Find out if they want to buy a car, right? Or maybe, you know, how many people are in your household? You know, there could be some stuff that I might want to know there. Okay, so I could add in a landing page and try to further qualify them. Okay, so what question are you going to ask?
You could ask them, are you looking at buying a house or a vehicle in the next, month, 3 months, year, 6 months, 3 months?
Lovely. Okay,
That could be
so,
one.
and if they say anytime within a year, then that's a hot prospect.
Right.
Okay,
And then, would you like someone to contact you?
that's a super qualified prospect.
Right.
Okay, so they could very easily, like they didn't even do that and they got those great results. If they put a landing page in there,
Yeah.
that should have even jumped up more than that.
Or
Okay.
ask them if they have kids, because they're students. Listen, they're too kids to do.
Yep. The biggest thing people use home equity for is actually, remodeling or something like that and paying for college expenses.
You tell them to go to their Facebook page and like them.
Could have had that on. Now that's a secondary. If I'm trying to generate leads, I really don't want them to get distracted with that, but I could do that in a follow-up. Hey, thanks for, requesting more information on our loans. Like us on Facebook and something can happen. Okay, so watch that you don't want conflicting things to do in there.
Stay focused.
What? Staying focused. Okay, because you can always come back. I have your email
Gives you
now
another
because you
reason to
responded.
Reach
What?
out. Gives you another reason to reach out.
Right.
Instead of putting everything in one stream, ping.
The more things you try to do, the easier it is for the person to get distracted. All right, open up your books to the final module. Module 7, okay? You guys, first group over here, you are the Excellence in Methods Business Magazine. You guys are Ryan Technologies, the office product dealer.
Put that running to work.
You guys are O'Leary Sparks Grill. And you guys are the state chapter of the national nonprofit organization Living Music for All. Okay? All right, so read your story, okay? And then we got to go fast here, because some people have to leave at 4. Yeah, read your story that I just assigned you. And what do we want to do? So what might be a good idea is like, as you're reading through it, circle stuff that you think you can work with. You have the sports grill, O'Leary Sports Grill.
That's 3 or 4.
Your original group.
What
Well, whoever's left of your original.
are we doing for questions?
Okay, so the questions that you want, it's in the back of the book.
Oh, okay, you're fine. I'm just trying to make sure.
Okay. Okay, well, that's your next steps for you moving forward. So the thing is, I just go through this story and figure out what you think you're gonna do. Like, what is your campaign gonna look like? All I care about on this exercise is campaign. We're assuming you already are selling it. Okay, so what do you think you wanna do to help them? Is it too small? Spend some money on the market. right?
Lifetime value on top of that.
Yep, and there's lifetime value on top of that, exactly. Okay, you guys have the restaurant, what do you want to do?
We have a sports grill, and there were 3 of them, and then they started having financial difficulties, so they kind of cut back on the food quality. One of the guys bought one of the locations and has just kind of, he's in a quick growing area, but he's had places like Applebee's Fridays, Ruby Tuesdays, all these places come in within like 5 and 10 miles around him, so his sales and stuff are going down.
Okay.
So the first thing we were thinking was to ask him, like, you know, why are your sales down? Is the price of your food and the quality of your food? Because it doesn't ever say in here if the quality of food went back up.
And by the way, it was terrible.
So,
Yeah.
so did the price and the quality, was it in line with the
Yeah, it
other
was pretty
restaurants?
competitive. They
that
just
he
did a
was
lot
with?
more advertising, Applebee's and whatnot, he was just some mom and pop kind of place, yeah.
Okay, and so, where he's got a problem with, each guest is asked to fill out a comment card at the end, I guess when they pay, and he only has about 10% of the guests fill out the card, so we were thinking what we could do is have him offer, like, if you fill out this card, a free appetizer on your next visit.
Okay.
Well, with that, he can capture email addresses and addresses, and so then with that, when it goes to the channeling campaign, not only can you Facebook and all that, but you can send out like the birthday cards and stuff, and maybe you get a free dessert. So
Okay.
he's promoting that kind of stuff as well.
Okay, all that's good.
And then
What was his differentiator though?
he wants to be family, but he also wants to be a pool hall.
Okay.
So we were thinking.
It's a real story, not making this up.
So he needs to either decide he's either a family restaurant or he's a bar.
Well, but think about that. Applebee's, Topeka's, Ruby Tuesdays, what is the thing he has that's different than all
Pool
those?
table.
Pool tables.
Pool tables and a dance floor.
Booths and stuff.
And
so-
he's got TVs in each booth. And so all
Which-
that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
There's
Isn't
enough
it?
Applebee's.
But there's enough Applebee's in the world. Okay, so that issue was more basic, like what are we gonna, who do you really want to
So
draw
maybe
in?
he has certain nights where, like say Mondays and Thursdays, because those are football nights.
Right,
You make those sports nights, you have drink specials or whatever, and those are more marketed as maybe not such a kid-friendly night as maybe some of the other nights.
okay, which would be tough, because then you get a JC Penney thing.
Well,
Am I
yeah,
going there for
that's-
the pool, am I going there for the kids?
See?
He's got
I have to
free-
remember, I have to remember.
Heck, good.
He's
He
got
had-
free meals for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
He had an identity crisis,
Yeah.
okay?
Always wants to be.
But I like what you were doing, because, basically, he said in there that he wants this to be a place that you can come back to 2 or 3 times a month. So picking up those email addresses would allow me to market, hey, tonight's corned beef night, come by.
And kids
like-
always eat free and they have seems to be a good
Green
meal
vegetable
with a
and a fruit
green
cup.
vegetable and a fruit cup, so advertise that too.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe with something white.
So he had a couple of differentiators in there, okay? But you're not gonna go head to head with Applebee's and Ruby Tuesdays.
No.
So he's got to figure out something else. And he had a dilemma. Do I focus on the bar pool table? Do I focus on the family? And so, really the question for him is how much money do you make on both sides of that?
But
And guess what the answer is?
I think
The pool.
the pool hall, because
The
if you
liquor.
did the survey
The
right,
liquor.
which is the card that he filled out, that answer should be already answered for.
Yeah. Okay, the unfortunate thing is the survey was in the restaurant. So I'm surveying the people I don't make money on. Okay, they made money on the bar. Okay, so he probably needed a completely different strategy. But if he did, he would have been differentiated because Ruby Tuesdays does not have a dance floor or a pool table.
What happened?
He wouldn't have a business.
Huh?
He wouldn't have a business. Okay?
He went under.
He went under. That's good, then listen to us. His analyst had it right.
He
if they would've
tried to listen, but he had a split personality.
Yeah.
And then there was a stabbing in the parking lot. It just kind of went from back
listened. We had that
Kill the family out of
to. And then they interviewed him on the nightly news, and he's standing in front of his freaking sign. And I was like, I called him and get away from the sign! And so, because they're like, what did you think of the stabbing? And the bar's name, the restaurant's name is back there. I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me. You're killing me. Okay. You guys. Okay,
for a music project that has to do with disabled musicians. So, questions for us?
That was what?
Yeah.
So what do you want to do?
So basically, we were gonna hopefully that they would have, hopefully that he would have who came to the concert last year, their emails and addresses, and we could both email and send them a postcard with some kind of offer for Facebook. We thought that the one advantage was it's music and it's for people with disabilities, and those are two like heartstring things that they can use social media to just explode it. So if he can come up with an offer, we had to figure out or we need to know, how much they get for tickets, how much they want to, expect to make.
Okay,
But-
perfect. That's his ROI calculation. Like how much, what is the upside here of selling more tickets and, okay?
Right, and then, so that was, and then we'd also talked about doing an EDDM around the venue a few days before the event to pull in more people to come for the concert. But then he also he rambled a lot.
They all did. That was meant to distract you.
Yeah, and so then he talked about, other projects that he wanted to do, such as music scores that were just for disabled musicians. And yeah, so we talked about how once they have a big social media following, then they can start tackling these other things that they.
The trick there was that's with the print application. Okay, so I wanted to see if you got distracted, like, do I go there first or do I go to the other thing? Okay, but the key element of that was, I don't know if it's going to be cost effective and what are the tickets to these things, $7 or whatever, to do an every door direct bell, price wise. Okay, so you were right on it. Let's go after the people that came before. Let's maybe offer them a package deal, get the fall and spring together. Okay, so that I get a lot of, I sell as much as I can to the people who are likely to, and I get them to promote it. So I encourage them to put it up on Facebook and tweet it and all that. So I get more bang for my buck out of mailing to them, and we already know they're a captive audience because they came before. Does that make sense? Okay, so good job, you guys. How'd you feel about that? Okay, so next steps. Make a list of all the organizations in your territories that are similar to the final exercise, because now you have 4 different verticals you might want to focus on. Link a piece of insight from today to a way to get in to see them, okay? Call them up, share that insight, and suggest a meeting to discuss it. Pretty simple, okay? Start the meeting by sharing that insight and wondering out loud to them, hey, what opportunity do you think there might be for you? Ask them that question, okay? Get them to agree that, yeah, we could get better response would be helpful, better ROI would be helpful, more customers would be helpful, and then figure out how you can help them and you can do something simple and then add to it in complexity. Okay? You guys feel smarter? Yeah. Hey, Jay's got a couple of last things to say to you.
All right, big round of applause for Kate. Thank Kate and InfoTrends for the session today. Thank you, good job. And I also want to remind you the next marketing certification workshop will be on March 8th. So if you want to go ahead and jot that down, that'll be March 8th of 2014. And if you would please take a few minutes and complete the critiques that are on your desk, and if you'll leave them there, I'll pick them up. And thank you for attending. Appreciate you guys being here. And safe travels home.
You guys did great.
Dinner's till 5.
What?
6:30.